lovelies, welcome to this fast track series on how to make a Polly Dolly doodah. I thought I'd record these fast track versions which are going to be ideal for people that have already made a Polly Dolly, that are on maybe number 2, 3, 4 or 5, that just need a quick memory reminder. So something that you can just dip into quickly, just to jog your memory on how to do all the different components of making your Polly Dolly. So if you're new to making a Polly Dolly, I would recommend you actually watch the number 1 series that I recorded, because that goes through absolutely everything. Whereas these fast track videos, this is just giving you the basics again, in order to jog your memory so that you can crack on with making subsequent Polly Dollies. So yes, so this is the head ball covered in the wadding, and this is our first step that we are going to do to create our Polly Dolly's head. Okay, so here are the items that you're going to need to construct your head ball. So you'll need white polycotton, and this is an 80/20 gauge. You'll need some toy stuffing, and we use the Trimmets toy grade stuffing. You'll need wadding, 3 pieces cut at 18-inch squared, and this is a 2-ounce quilting wadding. You're going to need some linen thread. Now we have this available in a 10-metre spool, which is 5 grams, and that's enough to do 1 dolly. Or you can buy a 20 grams spool, which is about 40 metres, and you should get 4 to 5 dolls out of that one. Or we've got the 50 grams spool, which is 100 metres, and you should get 10 to 12 dolls out of that. And for your tools, you're going to need your pinking shears. That's for cutting around the edge of your segments once they're sewn together. And you'll need some sharp little scissors for cutting the wadding off of the head ball. Do go careful with sharp scissors. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut out your 6 segment pieces using your head ball template. I've drawn around it just in a lead pencil, and I've cut around it with about a 1 centimetre seam allowance. Seam allowance isn't important because you're going to line up your segment pieces and you're going to sew along that drawn line. So when you pop your pin in, you need to turn over and make sure it matches the line on the back. So like I said, it doesn't really matter what size your seam allowance is. Your seam allowance could be 1 inch. It's the line that you are following with your sewing stitch, that marked line that you've done there. So just turn it over and just make sure that your pin that you've put in is actually matching the pin on the front. And then doing it that way, you know that the head ball is going to be exactly the correct size that it should be. Okay, so I'm going to take that to my machine and I'm going to sew around those 6 segments. So I've sewn all the segments of my head ball. All 6 segments are all now sewn together, and I've left just a small opening on one of the sides of the segment there. So that's my opening for my stuffing. So let's turn it the right way around. And now I'm going to stuff this little head ball. So you need quite a good amount of stuffing. And just pick off little bits and just work your way in. Now I tried to get the stuffing to the back of the ball to start with, so push it down nice and firmly so it's going towards the back of the ball. And then just start building up the sides. You'll be surprised at how much actually does go in here. So keep going, keep pushing in, and keep stuffing. Okay, so the head ball's stuffed nice and firmly. Probably can't really get much more in there. I've just weighed my head ball and it is weighing in at 55 grams. So that'll give you an idea of how much stuffing you need to put into your head ball. So our next job is to sew the seam allowance. So I'm taking my hand sewing needle with my white sew-all thread. Start off by doing 3 little stitches just to secure that thread in, and then all it is a simple slip stitch from one side of the opening to the other. Nothing fancy, you're just getting that seam allowance closed. I'm coming to the end of sewing that seam opening up now. I'm just going to fasten off with 3 little stitches. And I will sink my tail, snip that off. Oh, let's snip that little tail off, starting tail there as well. Okay, so it's quite an ovally type shape. It's not like a round ball, it's more of an oval, the actual finished shape of your head ball. And the measurement of it is, so around the complete circumference of your head ball is 32 centimetres. Okay, so that's what your head ball should finish up as. So next we're going to cover our head ball in our wadding. So I take my first piece of wadding and I'm going to need 6 lengths of the linen tie-in thread. So I'll just cut those off so that I know that I've got those ready to start with. 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that's my linen thread at the ready. So take your head ball, and as I say, it's quite ovally looking, quite an oval shape. You need to make sure that the centre star section is at the bottom of the wadding. Don't let it go on its side. Make sure that that is actually at the bottom of the centre point of the wadding. Then bring up the 4 corners. And then just start to tweak that out. Again, just double check, look inside, make sure that you can see your little crosses at the bottom there of your head ball shape, so that you know that that is at the bottom of the wadding. So you're just tweaking that around, easing it in. I do sometimes go around a couple of times just to make sure that I'm really smoothing all that wadding out, so there's no lumps and bumps in the way. So that's our first bit of wadding on. So I can see that it's fairly smooth along that bottom edge. And I'm just going to take my linen thread and tie off my first section. So when I hold it down there underneath the head, I do just slide my hand down a little bit, so it's not tight up into a complete tight ball. I just bring it down slightly, give it a little twist. So take your thread, wrap that round a few times and tie that off. Knot it 3 times and then just snip those ends, and then take another second piece of the linen thread. Again, make sure it's not too lumpy and bumpy on that edge there. Come down just a little way, give it a little twist, it helps to tighten that area there. Take another piece of your pre-cut linen thread, again nice and tight, Get that as tight as you can, because you don't want this to be too chunky on this bottom bit, because this is going to form part of the top of the body. So we give that a nice pull. Tie that off 3 times. And give that a snip. And then using your sharp scissors, just snip away at the lower edge of that wadding. Going careful as you go with your sharp scissors. So that's our first piece of wadding put on. Onto the second piece, and exactly the same as before. Find the centre point of the wadding, pop your head in, upright, bring up the 4 corners. Oh, let me just talk to you about this wadding instantly. I just need to let you know that occasionally in the wadding you get like this, it almost looks like a stitch line. Don't know whether you can see it or not. Yeah, you might be able to see it. Can you see there's a line running through there? This can be prone to splitting. Can you see? And you do get this anomaly with the wadding. It does happen. Okay, so what you need to do is when you get your wadding, just check your 3 pieces and put anything that's got these lines in on the first 2 layers of the head. Keep a piece that hasn't got any of these lines in for the outside piece of wadding. If it does split, it's not going to really cause any problem, especially if it's on the first layer or the second layer. But try not to use it on the 3rd layer of your head. So yeah, it's just one of those little things that you get with the wadding. Okay, so we're going to repeat. So we're just tweaking it along all the way around, taking it into that neck edge again, nice and smooth. Go around a couple of times, doesn't matter how many times it takes you to go around, but just make sure that that edge at the bottom here is nice and smooth and it's not all ridgy and lumpy. Again, hold it tight under the ball, give it a little twist, and just bring your hand, this hand, slightly lower. So that's tight up to the ball. Give it a little twist, and as you do, bring your hand down slightly. Okay, take your thread. Oh, come here. And tie that off. Best way to do it is to have a bit of a tail on the end of your linen thread. Hold on to it, hook it around your middle finger at the back there, and then that's holding that in place. And then just pull it around. Tie that off 3 times. And snip those ends. And then again for the bottom piece. Now you need to come down lower than the first one that you tied off. Okay, don't do it on top of it because it's going to make it too fat around that area there. So come down, slide down, again tighten by twisting, and I can feel that my first one finishes here. So I've come down slightly lower than that. Another piece of thread, wrap it around my middle finger at the back, hold on and get this really tight. Okay, keep pulling, keep twisting. Tighten tight and tie off 3 times. Snip the ends, and then same as before, we're going to snip away at that edge at the bottom there. So that's wadding layer number 2 on, and now on to layer number 3. In the middle, 4 corners up, and tweak that bottom edge out. Make it nice and flat and nice and smooth, and you're just running it in between your thumbs just to get that nicely tweaked out. hold on to it, give it a twist, tighten it up in your fingers, bring it down, grab your string, your linen thread, hold it at the back of your middle finger and tie the string around. Tie that off 3 times. And then snip those ends. And then same as before, bringing it down beyond number 2 piece of wadding, bring it beyond that. So you're coming down, give it a twist when you know that it's gone past layer number 2. There's a layer number 1 up there. There's a layer number 2 here. So I'm bringing my hands down underneath, giving it a twist to really tighten that up. And then I can tie off with my final piece of linen thread. Again, get it tight, pull it in tight, because you want that nice and small. Actually, I'm just going to redo that again because it's gone off skew a bit. So you don't always get it right first time. You can have another go if you feel that it's a bit wonky or it's not low enough. Start again. So around my middle finger at the back, tighten, tighten. Yeah, that's good for me. Give it a last final pull, tie off 3 times. Snip those ends. And then finally recut all that bottom wadding along that lower edge there. Okay, so that's your final layer of wadding on to your head ball, nicely cut at the bottom. So we're just going to measure this. So this should measure 36. So holding the tape measure on, bringing it round through the centre, and as you can see, it's now 36 centimetres. So it's grown from 32 to 36. And finally, keep a piece of this wadding. You need to keep a piece of this, or you can keep a couple of bits for your nose. So I just snip a bit there, and I take that little strip up there. And that's what's needed to craft our nose a little bit later on. You could take a couple of bits just in case you need to do a couple of practice runs on it. But yeah, that's basically what you need. That is, let's give that little measurement for you. So I've just snipped off about 23 centimetres and it's approximately 5 centimetres wide. So that's what you need for your nose later on. So there you go, my lovelies. I hope you enjoyed watching the first part of constructing Polly's head. So we've done the head ball in the poly cotton and we've covered it in 3 layers of wadding. Looking forward to seeing you on the next video. See you later.